Welcome to this Sunday's service. Welcome to this Sunday service, which is the 100th anniversary of the Flower Communion. We are sitting in the beloved sanctuary of the First Unitarian Church of St. Louis, and we are sitting with the spirits of everyone down through the ages who has sat in these pews and everyone who is waiting on the street to come tomorrow to sit in these pews with us here today. My name is Norma Vogelweide, she, her. As today's worship assistant and a member of this community, I want to particularly welcome any newcomers or visitors. If you're a newcomer, be sure to fill out the form found in the entrance lobby or in the live stream description of your order of service. After the service, we all will be downstairs in Fellowship Hall for conversation and coffee. We hope you will join us. If you have a family with children, you can connect with our Director of Religious Education, Danielle Kozemchek. If you're attending online, you can connect with each other through the order of service in the live stream description with QR codes in your pews or aim your smartphone at the monitor. There are 3 notices this morning regarding kids in summer, scholarship monies, and dementia behavior guidance. The first, Can Do Summer RE program, Sundays. This is a fun curriculum with outdoor activities for our children K through 6th grade, fostering flexibility and open-mindedness and a can-do spirit. There are 6 sessions from June to early August. Please see the e-news or Danielle for further information and dates. Second, the Women's Alliance has announced its scholarship competition. For this year, the application deadline is June 15th. See the e-news for more details. Third, on June 11th, the Alzheimer's Association will present Understanding and Responding to Dementia-Related Behavior. The event will be at 11:30 in the sanctuary and also online. Now, welcome to this religious community where we affirm the dignity and the freedom of everyone who enters our doors. Here we seek to live together in relationship and respect so that we may embrace and celebrate our differences. Our religious values invite us to a shared journey of truth and meaning, sincerity and connection guide this religious community and call us into deeper association with ourselves and the world. Welcome. We are glad we are together this morning. Now please enjoy the prelude, Fantasy in C Major by Bach, performed by our music director, Earl Naylor.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Kim Mason, she, her, hers, and I serve this congregation as minister. And I'm grateful for Seamus and all of our other volunteers who are bringing in the flowers for flower communion. This day, June 4th, is the 100th anniversary of the first ever flower communion created by the Reverend Norbert Chapek. And so this morning we celebrate what is ritual. And I have to say, we traditionally do this in May, and I think I've discovered why. I only wear a robe for our UU High holidays, of which this is one, and it's really hot to wear this robe in June. Just saying. We begin with words from the Reverend Craig Schwallenberg. Each of us is a seed in the divine garden. We do not know what lies within the seed of us, what will grow into being, what gifts will offer the world. We are unfolding mysteries. Flags waiting to unfurl and present our colors to the world. As we grow, as we stretch toward the sky and sun, we may very well wonder, question the mystery of it all, never entirely sure of our purpose, never quite sure of our neighbors growing right beside us. But with all this mystery, all this unknown, we do know this. We know the beauty of it, the beauty of those beside us, beauty around us, below us, and above us, the beauty within us, waiting to burst free, waiting to be recognized and made real. Each of us is a seed in the divine garden. There are no weeds here, no plants without purpose, even if that purpose may be simply to be, a part of the beauty and the mystery, fully welcome in community. Come, let us worship together. Please rise as you are willing and able and join in our opening hymn, number 36, The Sweet Days of June. That would be hymn 65.
The call of the artist is to follow the excitement. Where there's excitement, there's energy. Where there's energy, there is light. Let this light of our chalice burn throughout your life.
On this thing. Hold on. Okay, that's better. Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Kazemchek, and I am the Director of Religious Education as well as Communication for the church. And my pronouns are she, her. I will be telling the story for all ages this morning about Norbert Chapek's flower communion. Am I saying it wrong? Chapek. I kind of thought it was Chapek, and then I thought I was saying it wrong, so thank you. Okay. If you've been here for a while, you've heard this story many times, I'm sure, but for people who are unfamiliar with flower communion, it is a ritual that most Unitarian Universalist churches have in the spring, and ours usually falls on Mother's Day. However, this year we are celebrating 100 years of flower communion because on this day, in 1923, I had to think about it, what was 100 years ago? The first flower communion was held in Prague. The first one was in what is now known as the Czech Republic, but at the time it was actually part of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, and it was a government that was not accepting or open-minded. The state-supported religion was Catholicism, and while they didn't necessarily say you had to be Catholic, it was safer to be Catholic. And actually some of my family lived in that area and fled during a similar time period because of, well, part of my family, because of the Austria-Hungarian Empire. But Norbert's family was, of course, Catholic. He grew up in a part of the Czech Republic that was called Bohemia. And as he got older, he started to question things and didn't really agree with the teachings of the Catholic Church anymore. So when he was about 18 years old, he decided to become a Baptist. When I first read that, I thought it was very funny because that doesn't seem like a very liberal religion to me. But he did, he became Baptist. He left his home and he went to school. The Baptists took him in. He became a minister, and he was a Baptist minister for a large part of his life, actually. He would travel around to other countries as a missionary and teach, wow, we're way ahead here, the Bible. He also opened up a lot of different churches, Baptist churches across Europe. Parts that he was in a lot were Czechoslovakia, the Ukraine, and Germany. He started asking questions during this time period, and some of his religious views became more liberal. And he started his own magazine at the time with articles in it about science and psychology. But the Austrian authorities didn't really like that very much. And they also did not trust Baptists. So they raided his home and took away his writings and his magazines. And that was when he decided he had to move to the United States to escape persecution. In the United States, when he came here, he became a minister of a Baptist church in Newark. But at that time, he was already starting to question and disagree with the Baptist church. And so eventually he left the Baptist church and found Unitarianism. Before that happened, he met somebody named Maya, thank you, who was also born and raised in the Czech Republic, but she was living in the United States and working as a librarian. And together they discovered the Unitarian Church in Newark and joined. And they loved it so much that they decided they wanted to go back to their homeland because they were both from the same area of the Czech Republic called Bohemia, but different towns. And they wanted to spread liberal religion across Europe. That was the idea. So they moved to Prague. Norbert rented a concert hall in which to meet, and people came to it from many religious backgrounds, but they didn't agree with their former religions, and they didn't want to be reminded of them, and they wanted something new. So this new church was very, very different than the ones they had known. If you've ever been in a Catholic church, you know what I'm talking about because it's very Baroque. And this church was pretty bare. He didn't wear minister robes. There was no singing of hymns, can you imagine? No prayers, no stained glass windows, no decorations of any kind. And they didn't even have coffee or donuts. He felt that something was missing in the church, something that would tie them all together despite all of their different backgrounds. And one day, on his way home from the church, he came upon a brilliant flower by the side of the road. Suddenly, he got the idea for flower communion. The next Sunday, he asked each person to bring in a flower. What kind, they asked. What color? What size? And he said, you choose. You choose what you like. So the next Sunday, which was the first day of summer, the people came in with flowers of all different colors and sizes and kinds. There were yellow daisies and red roses. There were white lilies and blue asters, pansies, pink and purple, orange and gold, all the colors. Flowers filled the vases in the church, and it wasn't so plain and simple anymore. Minister Chapek spoke to the people. These flowers are like ourselves, he said, different colors, different shapes, and different sizes, each needing different types of care. But each is beautiful and important and special in its own way. When he was done speaking, the people each chose a different flower from the vases before they went home. It takes many flowers to make a bouquet, and it takes many kinds of people to make a church community. Everyone in our church needs something a little different from the church. Some people like to give. They might serve on committees or bake brownies, take care of the building, sing in the choir. Other people need more care. And so we make them dinners. We light a candle for them. The minister might visit them in the hospital. Sometimes you are both of those people, but just in different times of your lives, right? As we leave today, you each will take a different flower from the vase to remind you of our community. Also, as you were coming in, there will be these tiny little squares, and the idea is we are going to make a collaborative art project. My son Charlie painted a giant canvas. He primed it for us, and I did a lot of computer magic, and these were all fit together into a picture of flowers. And each one of you can do one or two. There were squares at the front. You might have grabbed one with some coloring supplies, but if you don't have one, don't worry, I'll come give you one. And that's it for the story today. And I don't even know what's coming next. God bless me. It's been a busy morning. Okay. Next we'll have the new member ceremony with Reverend Kim.
On this Flower Communion Sunday, 100 years after the very first, we celebrate the beautiful diversity of our members. And what more meaningful way to celebrate this special anniversary than to recognize those new friends who have joined our congregation in the past year. It is with joy that we welcome. We're going to call your name, and you're going to chancel, and we're going to give you presents. I invite forward Becky Asbury. I saw Becky. TJ Begush, did I pronounce that correctly? Close. And Roz Cook. Mike Bray. Roy Cole. Amelia Emling. Fran Hoffman. Kurt Johnson. Mitch Krause and Bethany Miscannon. Nope. You're supposed to stay up here. Kim and Gary Parks. Come back to the chancel. Scott Sinclair. Sarah Vaughn. And Rachel Webb. We welcomed 15 new members to the congregation since January.
Hello, newbies. Today, we welcome into our community these new members who have chosen to make a commitment to this congregation by signing our membership book. We are so glad to have you among us. As a free church, we have no creed or doctrine which you must affirm in order to join. Good thing. Instead, we simply ask this. And there's several, so don't say yes yet, because you might say no. Okay. Will you worship, work, play, and grow among us? Will you bring your whole self and your unique gifts to this congregation? Will you deepen your spirituality and travel this faith journey in community? Will you join us in creating a more loving and just world? If so, please say, we will. We will. Whew. Okay.
This shared community, together we search for truth and meaning and commit to the collective mission of this congregation, both giving and receiving support, and honoring each other's worth and dignity just as yours is honored. This community strives to live up to its highest ideals, yet sometimes we fail. In those times, as together we live into the spirit of love. If you will join us in this shared ministry, please say, we will. We will. Congregation, will you welcome these new members with the warmth and acceptance of your fellowship? Will you seek to add your gifts and talents to the new gifts they bring us? Will you share our triumphs and our struggles as our community grows and changes? Will you partner in nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice? Please say, we will. We will. So we will all rise together. I'm going to step away because it's up on the screen. And so those of you up here will now see that things are going to show up on the monitor. Together we will read in unison. We receive you with open hands and hearts. As you join us, we once again renew our own commitment to this religious community. We are proud and happy to have you among us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Woo! Now, thank you. You may be seated. Now, for our new members, I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit different this time. Usually, you would take your flower home. However, today is flower communion, and so I'm going to ask you to place your flower in one of our baskets here this morning to symbolize your joining with this community. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, you can go now. Each week, we bring our joys and sorrows and concerns to this community. We do this so that they may be carried with the support of others, so that our concerns can be held and our joys magnified. Now is the time in our service when we connect with one another by sharing our sorrows and concerns. This week, We share our deep sympathy with George and Betsy Graham Howell. George's mother, Cheryl Howell, died early Tuesday morning after a short time in hospice. And we send healing thoughts to Christian Cox, who is in the hospital. This is Augie's grandson. Many of you will know Christian, who is in the hospital recovering from a recent medical emergency. In our community, we also hold many concerns with one another. There we go. Ooh. And I've ended up with the form and not. We hold one another in community. Our concerns will remain unspoken this morning, but held in our hearts and with one another. As a community, we carry our joys together as well. This morning, we celebrate the many new members who have become part of our community this past year. And we carry the joys of this community in our hearts and minds as we connect with one another. With these joys and sorrows remaining in our hearts and minds, I invite you into a spirit of prayer and mindful attention. This morning, we have the original Flower Communion prayer written by Norbert Chapek and read in both Czech and English by the Reverend Dr. Peter Samoyski, minister of the Prague Unitarian congregation in the Czech Republic.
Let me share with you the meditation which Norbert Fabian Chapek offered for Flower Communion. Ve jménu prozřetelnosti, která do jádra ukládá budoucnost mohutného stromu a do srdcí vkládá budoucnost zbratřeného lidstva, ve jménu toho nejvyššího, co námi hýbe, co činí matku matkou, bratra bratrem a sestru sestrou, ve jménu mistrů a vůdců božských, kteří vlastních životů nasazovali, jen aby uspíšili příchod říše lidskosti, pro dobro vlastní a prospěch svého národa obnovme své předsevzetí, že si chceme být upřímnými bratry a sestrami bez ohledu na jakékoliv přehrady, které odcizují člověka člověku. V tomto svatém předsevzetí síliš nás vědomí, že jsme jedna boží rodina, že jeden duch, duch lásky nás spojuje a jedna snaha po dokonalejším a radostnějším životě nás vede. In the name of providence, which implants in the seed the future of the flower, and in our hearts the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest, in whom we move, and who makes the mother and father, the brother and sister, lover and loner for what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real brothers and sisters, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges us from each other. In this holy resolve may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family. That one spirit, the spirit of love, unites us, and endeavor for more a perfect and more joyful life. Amen.
Our reading is adapted from the book entitled The Flower Communion, a service of celebration for religious liberals by Reginald Sotoli. It is with the permission from the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, which first published this resource in the book, The Communion Book, edited by Carl Seberg. The Unitarian Universalist Flower Festival was a service created by Dr. Norbert Chapek, who lived from 1870 to 1942. He founded, along with his wife, Maya Chapek, the Unitarian Church in Prague, Czechoslovakia, and introduced the festival to the church on June 4th, 1923, as a ritual of togetherness and hope. Chapek turned to his surroundings, the countryside, and created a simple service using flowers and nature. It is for this reason that this workshop refers to the ritual as a flower festival rather than flower communion, as it is more commonly known. It was originally called the Flower Festival or the Flower Celebration by Czech Unitarians, according to the daughter of the ritual's creator. Her father intentionally called it a festival or celebration because he did not want to confuse or alienate his congregants with the term communion, which had many connotations from the Christian tradition. On the last Sunday before summer recess of the Unitarian Church in Prague, children and adults participated in this colorful ritual, which gives concrete expression to the humanity-affirming principles of our liberal faith. When the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, they found Dr. Chapek's gospel of the inherent worth and dignity of each person to be as recorded in the Nazi documents. Too dangerous to the Reich for him to stay alive. Dr. Chapek was sent to Dachau, where he was killed the next year during a medical experiment. We know from his writings that even in the concentration camp, his hope for the world endured. In 1940, a tour of the United States, Maja Chapek brought the Flower Festival to the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Unfortunately, Maja was not able to return to Prague due to the outbreak of World War II. It was only after the war ended that she found out that her husband was dead. Nevertheless, the message of human hope and dignity continues, and it is conveyed in this ritual, it lives on as we celebrate it today.
Norbert Chapek's story began like many of ours. Raised in a faith that he wasn't quite sure fit him, he soon became disillusioned with Catholicism and looked for a more liberal church community. As you heard from Danielle, he found that in the Baptist tradition and became an evangelist, founding churches from Ukraine to Budapest. And as you also heard, he was a prolific writer, publishing articles on topics ranging from psychology to politics that attracted much unfavorable attention from the German authorities. In 1914, Chapek came to the U.S. and served the first Slovak Baptist church in Newark, New Jersey. Yet he found that the longer he served in the ministry, the more and more liberal his faith became, such that he was put on trial by the Baptist Association for heresy. After more than 20 years as a Baptist, Chapek wrote in his diary, "I cannot be a Baptist anymore, even in compromise. The fire of new desires, new worlds is burning inside me." It takes a tremendous amount of conviction and integrity to name a truth that would change his whole life. Chapek resigned as a Baptist in 1919. But he remained a person of faith, and he was raising 8 children who he felt really strongly needed a religious education program. Some of you may relate to this as well. And so it was that he and his wife Maya found the first Unitarian church of Essex County in Orange, New Jersey, where he took his children for religious education. And along the way, he stayed for the liberal religious community. It was that once World War I ended, Chapek and his wife returned to Czechoslovakia in 1921 and founded the Prague Liberal Religious Fellowship, a Unitarian church. And in 1930, the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia was officially recognized by the Czech government. The church was so successful that by 1940, it had grown to 3,200 members. Czechoslovakian megachurch. And it was in this church that Chapek created the flower ceremony or flower festival. As you heard earlier, the church was very simple. In an effort to create a space where people could bring the diversity of their beliefs and identities, Chapek had created a church without much of anything else. No ritual, no music, no color, no flair. It is possible to go so far in one direction that you end up completely on the opposite side of where you intended to go. In an effort at being inclusive of the diversity of religious beliefs and expressions present in this community, the new congregation ended up bland, described by some as blank. That's not a good description for a church, y'all. So it was in 1923 that Chapek developed the flower ceremony, where the collective diversity of flowers represented the congregation, each different yet all together. In the words of the Reverends Teresa and David Schwartz, quote, "There was the church community no less unique for being united. Today, flower communion, as we know it, is a tradition in UU congregations all over the world. It is one of our uniquely Unitarian rituals, born out of this faith rather than inherited from any other tradition. Now, you heard also that Chapek was intentional about not calling this ritual communion because he was afraid of the Christian connotations. So I offer you this definition of communion from the Oxford Dictionary. The sharing or exchanging of intimate thoughts and feelings, especially when the exchange is on a mental or spiritual level. Communion is also a group of people who share a common religious faith or community. And so in our flower communion, we celebrate this faith community where we exchange thoughts and feelings on a mental and spiritual level. And in doing so, nurture spirituality, build community, and advance justice. That is, as some of you may recognize, our mission statement. The First Unitarian Church of St. Louis strives to be a welcoming congregation, inspiring lives of loving kindness and integrity by nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. One of these days, y'all are going to repeat that along with me. One of the ways we do this is by sharing the plate. All non-pledge donations received this morning will go towards the Trinity Hot Lunch program. This program provides a weekly hot lunch to those in need. As a fellow member congregation of the Holy Ground Collaborative, First Unitarian has regularly worked to provide 3 of these lunches each year. This morning's offering will now be received. as we celebrate the beauty of this community with the symbolism of flower communion, and as we welcome 15 new members into our congregation, I am grateful for the hard work of the membership committee, who kept us connected during the shutdown and embraces and integrates our community now, for their efforts and for your gifts this morning and every day. Thank you. "100 years of flower communion." It would be very easy to look at the plain beauty of the flower ceremony and mistake it for pablum, something so simplistic as to be meaningless. To do so would be to ignore the true meaning of the ceremony and Chapek's deeply rooted theology. There are many ways to build a floral arrangement, different shapes and sizes, in vases, in baskets, and stuck into floral foam. Some arrangements are all the same flower, in the same color, like the ubiquitous dozen red roses on Valentine's Day. Yet the displays that are the most stunning, that last the longest, are the ones filled with a multitude of flowers in many shapes and sizes, scents and colors. When a floral display is all the same flower, they tend to droop and die all at the same time. If you ever come to the church during the week, you'll notice that the Sunday displays that still look good a week or more later are like that. Vibrant arrangements full of all sorts of flowers. Our Unitarian Universalist congregations are like that too. The ones where we welcome people's differences, their identities and lived experiences. These are the congregations that survive and thrive, whether it's age or economic status, race or sexual orientation, theology or gender identity. Together in the container that is the congregation, our differences complement each other. Together we fill the many spaces and places in the church. Flower communion reminds us that the reality of diversity, of a multiplicity of identities and beliefs, doesn't mean plainness, doesn't mean blank, but rather a riotous fullness of expression. Chapek knew this. He celebrated what he called the hidden cry for harmony within the infinite in every soul. Every person, he wrote, is an embodiment of God, and in every one of us, God struggles for higher expression. Chapek's faith launched a community, a church rooted in hope and a reverence for life that carried people through the horrors of World War II and the Holocaust. Even when imprisoned at Dachau, the stories say he held flower communion each year, inviting other prisoners to find whatever green and growing weed or flower they could, so that some piece of beauty might sustain them. The Nazis killed Norbert Chapek, wrote the Reverends Teresa and David Schwartz. But his spirit, courage, and commitment live on today. Those qualities have passed now to us to make them real. Chapek's faith that welcomed diversity and inclusion, that created a faith community where everyone had inherent worth and dignity, was so dangerous they killed him. We have inherited that legacy. We are the church that holds that each person has inherent worth and dignity, that they are loved and belong. Shortly before his death in 1942, Chapek wrote these words. You will recognize them from our choral piece. It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals. O blow ye evil winds into my body's fire, my soul you'll never unravel. Even though disappointed 1,000 times, or fallen in the fight, and everything worthless seem, I have lived amidst eternity. Be grateful, my soul. My life was worth living. He who pressed from all sides but remained victorious in spirit is welcomed into the choir of heroes. He who overcame the fetters giving wing to the mind is entering into the golden age of the victorious. To hold such wealth of self-knowledge while surviving a concentration camp. When we celebrate flower communion, it is not just a historical reenactment, but is, in the words of the Reverend Schwartz, an affirmation of our continuity with the generations of struggle for ever-widening liberty. This flower ceremony, lovely though it is, isn't a diversion from reality, but a gentle fierceness which proclaims that in the midst of sinister days, there is light and beauty. We are not here to recall something that happened, but to remember something that is happening. To remember. To put it back together again and again, and in that remembering, put ourselves back together, each as a part of the body of this community. Out of many, one. And so, honoring the beautiful diversity we bring to the community, this ceremony gives expression to the life-affirming principles of our liberal faith. As you entered today, the flowers you brought were placed in these baskets. Our children and youth, or in the case of one child, have brought them forward to be blessed. At the conclusion of our service this morning, our ushers, usually our children, I'm going to invite our ushers to help, because I think 1 3-year-old is not going to be enough. Our ushers and our children will hand each of you a flower, a different one than the one you brought in. This small difference from Chapek's ceremony is how we recognize the gifts we receive from one another through our participation in community. Some of you may be visiting this morning and didn't know to bring a flower. The grace of this community is that while some did not bring flowers, others brought extras so that all may participate. The beautiful blessing of flower communion is that there are always more flowers remaining at the end than we started with. It's really kind of amazing. It's a whole loaves and fishes thing. I bless these flowers today with the words first spoken by the Reverend Dr. Norbert Chapek. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection, and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Now please rise as you are willing and able and join me in our closing hymn with these original lyrics by Norbert Chapek. Shocking. Color and Fragrance. Our closing words come from the Reverend Dr. Peter Samoyski of the Unitarian Church in Prague. I invite you to sit while we play the video.
These words I offered as a meditation over the flowers before their distribution. In the name of what is holy, in the name of what is good, in the name of that which gives life, we have gathered here in this place today. We have been given life to live under the aspect of eternity, for that is the source of happiness. To work on ourselves and bring happiness into our lives, to be as valid as possible to others with whom we are connected by invisible relationships. You, the flowers, remind us of the wonderful simplicity of the natural order, and that we too are a part of it. You remind us of the beauty and harmony of diversity. You remind us that one can feel and perceive and live unity in diversity and diversity in unity. Let the spirit of creative life unite us as it reigns among us.
May the spirit of creative life unite us as it reigns among us. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace. Please stay for the postlude, and after the postlude, as your final act of worship, please turn and greet your neighbor.